channel, guys.
To astronomy. Now, we've carried on sending over 2,000 satellites in orbit, inventing telescopes that can map out the galaxy, even taking a step on the moon itself. But now we're doing things like going to Mars. And we're not just going there to capture footage or take a step. People are going to live there, to build homes and grow gardens and start families. We went from studying the patterns of the stars to preparing for life on Mars. But what comes next? Where will our imagination take us? Anywhere. All we have to do is imagine the possibilities. But what exactly is the imagination? It's the birthplace of all ideas, where we see beyond the answers in front of us and think outside of the box. It's the moment we daydream, creating worlds that don't exist yet. It's seeing possibilities where others see limits. It's asking, what if? And it's ignited when we're inspired by something, when we feel a spark, when a thought or an issue triggers an idea of what is possible. And those ideas can be as big as building a civilization on Mars, or as simple as picturing our report card full of A's. Now, our imaginations let us believe that anything is possible no matter what logic dictates. I lost my legs to a genetic disorder when I was 5, and I was told I wouldn't be a functioning member of society. Logic might tell us that people without legs can't drive cars or climb mountains. But someone dreamed up a car for people like me, and lo and behold, I've driven across the country, and I made it to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. And the wonderful thing about the imagination is that it can be used to envision better worlds for ourselves and for others. Think of the fight for equality, whether it be basic human rights, racial, gender, or who we love. Our imagination shows us that a world where everybody is treated equally is possible. We can get there. Now, every social movement starts with an idea. For Craig, it was a world without child slavery, but that wasn't enough. These kids and their families needed empowerment. What was education without clean water or proper health care? What about a steady food supply or family's income source? That idea paved the way for the creation of sustainable communities, and Adopt a Village was born. Now, Craig's imagination was sparked by an article, but your spark can come from anywhere. Beethoven's Sixth Symphony was inspired by his hikes in Vienna from taking in the sights and sounds of forests and bird calls. And James Naismith wanted to give his rowdy students an outlet in the dead of a cold, wet winter, and basketball was born. And just a couple of years ago, Lord's song Royals was inspired by a photo of a baseball player with a Kansas City Royals jersey on. Your spark could be anything and everything. So dream big, dream really big. Let your mind run wild with endless possibilities. One day we'll be looking back at a world before there was a cure for cancer, before every child had the right and access to an education. And when that day comes, it'll be thanks all to your imagination. Now, throughout the day, we're going to hear from our friends at Potash Corp, who help make We Day Saskatchewan possible. They're so excited to see your imaginations run wild, and that's why they're providing 20 Saskatchewan youth with a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to win a Potash Corp youth trip to Kenya. And one of those 20 trips will be drawn today.
Now, changing the world does start with just one person, and it starts with a shift in yourself. You know, growing up, I loved to play sports, every sport I could. Basketball, volleyball, you name it, I played it. I even dreamed that one day I'd be competing for Canada in the Olympic Games. And then, when I was 15 years old, everything changed. You see, I went on a fishing trip with a bunch of my buddies, and we decided to hike home from the fishing trip, and the truck that we were in went out of control, and I was thrown from the truck. I sustained a spinal cord injury, and the doctors told me that I'd never walk again. I thought all of my hopes and dreams had been crushed along with my spine. But boy, was I wrong. What I really needed was a shift in me. You see, absolutely. Thank you. At first, I didn't really expect much of myself, and you know, in that new reality, others didn't either. And what I needed is role models and teachers to show me the possibilities, to let me know that I needed to make choices to see my own possibilities, but it wasn't easy. I faced a long and painful rehabilitation, and followed by learning how to get around in a wheelchair, and everything had changed. There were barriers everywhere. Even my school wasn't accessible. And the biggest barriers of all, well, those were the ones that I couldn't see. But thankfully, my high school coach and teacher, Bob Redford, taught me something really valuable. You know, he reminded me that I was still Rick the adventurer, Rick the athlete. And he made me realize that nowhere in the definition of an athlete does it say that you have to use your legs in order to be one. I just had to adapt and think differently. And with this new reality came new possibilities. No, I couldn't walk, but you know, I could use this chair, and not just to get around, but to really have some fun, to kick it up and do some wheelies and really go for it, to get back in motion. And even play wheelchair sports. You know, I went on to represent Canada in the Olympic and Paralympic Games in track and marathoning, winning 3 Paralympic gold medals. By changing my attitude, I had achieved my biggest dream yet. And filled with gratitude, you know, I realized that I didn't get there by myself. I knew that I got there on the backs of so many amazing people, and I had to pay it forward to make a difference in the lives of others too. I had to move from me to we. You see, traveling around the world as a Paralympian, you know, I saw barriers everywhere that people with disabilities faced. And I decided that if I could just push my wheelchair around the world, I could prove that people with disabilities could do anything. People like Spencer, people everywhere, if barriers were removed. And it was a huge goal. And there were many times, you know, that I doubted my dream. I thought about giving up. But determination and the support of an amazing group of people saw me through. I pushed that wheelchair through 34 countries, traveling 40,000 kilometers around the world. It took over 2 years. We created a lot of awareness, and we raised $26 million in support of the dream of an accessible world. But I knew that was just the beginning of my journey. We started the Rick Hansen Foundation to continue to make a difference, to continue to change the world, and we've made great progress over 30 years. But, you know, our work isn't done. Did you know that there are over 1 billion people on the planet today living with disabilities? They make one of the world's largest minorities, but, you know, people don't realize that people with disabilities face not only physical barriers, but attitudinal barriers every single day. So together, we can continue to break down these barriers and show the impact of many in motion in a global movement of change. And what can you do? What can you do to continue to move forward and keep this journey going? You can think about the barriers that exist in your schools, in your communities locally, nationally, globally. Think about your own attitude towards people with disabilities. Think about bullying and how we can eliminate it. We can envision and create an even better world. A world that's accessible and inclusive for all. So think big, think creative, and that you'll find limitless possibilities for all of your goals and dreams. Anything is possible.